Susan Rice is our UN ambassador, and there's some chance she might be up for Secretary of State. So the Republicans are quite livid about what she said about Benghazi. We're going to debate that in a second. So today they had a chance to meet with her, and they were grilling rice. We were thinking of going with fried rice. All right, anyway, okay. So McCain, Lindsey Graham, and Senator Ayotte, which is a perfect name for a Republican senator, came out afterwards and were not happy with how things went. In order to explain how all this went down, we need a political correspondent. That's just not a mini guy political correspondent, not a medium-sized one, but one that is absolutely epic. All right.
Sadly, I haven't been a mini guy for a while.
Yeah, well, me and you both, brother.
That's right.
Okay. Anyway, so tell me what happened today.
Well, I mean, you alluded to it already. The three senators. Joe Lieberman has to be very jealous right now because he was one of the three amigos, and now Kelly Ayotte has stepped in there. All three senators spoke today with Susan Rice. Also, acting CIA Chief Mike Morrell was there with them, too, for those meetings. And we start here with John McCain. You remember him. He ran for president, Jank, a little while ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, same guy.
It is clear that the information that she gave the American people was incorrect when she said that it was a spontaneous demonstration triggered by a hateful video.
Ambassador Rice said today, absolutely, it was wrong.
Here's what I can tell you. The American people got bad information on 16 September. They got bad information from President Obama days after. And the question is, should they have been giving the information at all?
So, of course, that's Senator Graham, Senator McCain, and Senator Ayotte. Unfortunately, Senator Manchin couldn't make the press conference. Anyway, look, is there any chance they would have met with Rice and thought, oh, she nailed it. Okay, never mind.
Well,
or did they plan all along that they were going to bury a hatchet in her back afterwards?
Hard to know. I mean, they said that they actually demanded that she meet with them and talk to them. They first initially wanted a committee set up. Bob Corker, the senator from Tennessee, said, wait a second, we're getting ahead of ourselves here with a committee. They came and they talked to her. I think this speaks to the seriousness with which the administration is treating Susan Rice as a possible Secretary of State nominee.
Because Obama normally would have thrown her under the bus a long time ago. Like when Republicans attack, usually Van Jones, et cetera, are shown the door. She's not shown the door. But to me, Michael, that also indicates that maybe they told her to say that, so now they got to have her back.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, and I think Rice is saying as much, and I think that you heard Jay Carney say it today, and we'll get to that in a little bit, that they really feel like they did what they had set out to do. They were not playing politics, according to the White House, according to the president. Susan Rice was sent out there as U.S. ambassador to answer the questions. She was armed with the same intelligence briefings that these three senators were armed with, and that's what she went ahead and said. And here's Susan Rice talking about that as well. Oh, okay. That is a graphic. The talking points provided by the intelligence community and the initial assessment upon which they were based were incorrect in a key respect. There was no protest or demonstration in Benghazi. While we certainly wish that we had had perfect information just days after the terrorist attack, as is often the case, the intelligent assessment has evolved. And that is, that is consistent with what this administration has said. It's also consistent with precedent. When anything like this happens, the first reports that you get out of any kind of a situation in a far-off land from Vietnam up to now are sketchy at best, and they go with the intelligence they have.
I hear you, and I'm not sure that it's her fault but I don't believe them. I don't believe the administration, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so the attack happens, and we've discussed this before. The Benghazi attack happens, and they've got RPGs. It's a coordinated assault. I came on the air here and said, whoa, this is different than what's happening in Egypt. They're not just protesting the movie. It was fairly obvious. And then the CIA writes up a report that does not involve that explains it is a terrorist attack. Then someone, and we don't know who, someone in the administration amended it to say, or it could have been about the movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's the key to me.
They don't know that. They certainly didn't want to say Al-Qaeda. They didn't want to say Hamas or Hezbollah. They didn't want to go with any of the organizations that could have been behind this. They didn't want to say that because they didn't want to fan the flames. They didn't want to blame someone early. Here is the White House defending their position. Jay Carney, the spokesperson at the press briefing.
There are no unanswered questions about Ambassador Rice's appearance on Sunday shows and the talking points that she used for those appearances that were provided by the intelligence community. Those questions have been answered.
Yeah, look, again, I'm not putting it on Susan Rice. Somebody changed the talking points. Everybody had the same talking points, but the Republicans didn't. John McCain is on with her on that same Face the Nation, says, no way, it's a terrorist attack. It was coordinated.
Or they had the talking points and they went against them. I mean, that's the other thing. They could have been. I mean, you're with the three amigos. You're the fourth amigo in this.
I'm Senator Manchin.
Yeah, indeed you are.
Okay. All right. Anyway, now let's go on to something different that's interesting. Yeah. Touré, who's a host on MSNBC, who I really like, good guy, smart guy, made a point that I'm not sure I agree with. He brought race into this. Let's watch.
He also gave us the horrible optics of he and Lindsey Graham as old white establishment folks wrongly and repeatedly attacking a much younger black woman moments after an election in which blacks and women went strongly blue. Looks like the GOP is already laying the foundation for losing in 2016.
Do you think this has anything to do with Susan Rice, gender or race?
You know, I really don't. I was on the Turks with Professor Tricia Rose, who's on our show often, and she was saying that it did have something to do with race. I disagreed with her. I disagree with Touré here. I don't think this has anything to do with race. Condoleezza Rice, another African-American woman named Rice, was the Secretary of State. These people didn't come after her. I think this is just about the, you know, and I said this earlier today to someone, when the best thing about a black coach being hired is when a black coach is fired, because it means.
Oh, really? That's kind of racist you are.
Yeah, well, that sounds right. But that is a sign of progress, though.
Doesn't sound like something they say in Alabama.
Yeah, well, that's true. You know what I mean here. Is that when you can criticize openly someone without any thought of what their skin color is, and I can't speak for McCain and Ayotte and those people. I don't think this has to do with race. I do have to think that this has to do with the way they see Susan Rice. She's in some circles not well liked. Reports have said that some of these people just actually don't want her to be Secretary of State because they don't want her. They don't think she's a great diplomat. So
that's all weird.
Well,
yeah.
But I mean,
look, let me address all of that. So number one, on the Condoleezza Rice issue, when older white Democratic senators criticized Condoleezza Rice, nobody said it was gender or race, because it wasn't. So no. Look, and number two, there are times when the Republicans are very clearly using racial issues, like Sonia Sotomayor. Perfectly qualified, went to Princeton, got great grades, etc. And what do the Republicans do? Oh, unqualified Latina.
Right.
Okay, now that was racial,
well, there
right?
are so many opportunities you have when it is about race with the Republican Party, and you have to use those and not sort of dilute your argument with something like this, which to me shows no clearing. I mean, it does not clearly show that there's race involved.
Right, and whether the Republicans are right or not about the substance, let's get real, too. They're doing this for the politics. They just want to take down Obama's possible Secretary of State nominee, and they feel like, ha-ha, it's a notch in our belt.
And let's not forget also one thing. They want John Kerry because they want that seat to open up in the Senate to put Scott Brown in there as well. There's something further.
A great point. That's why they call him epic. / I call him epic. Okay. All right. Coming up next, Zero Dark 30. It's a movie about getting bin Laden, but of course, there's always controversy.
The whole world's gonna weigh in on this.
Major players in the Republican Party characterizing the script and the movie before I had even written a word.
That's funny. All right, we're going to talk to Michael Hastings about that. And then later, the elbow of the day. Well, I'll tell you what it is, but you have to guess the characters. It's Republican on Republican crime, and it is fun.